If you want to skip straight to how I tattoo myself, follow this link here. Otherwise, stick around, I'm going to show you my tattoo setup.
Setting up for a tattoo is like a ritual, and I think everyone's is slightly different. I like to use a trolley with drawers and wheels. It's not essential, but very useful. I've been stick and poke tattooing for over 2 years now, so I'm making this video as if I'm sending it back in time to myself when I started out. Everything from equipment to setup, and finally technique, execution, and aftercare in the next video. If you've been watching videos of people using sewing needles and pen ink, please don't do that. Like most people, I started out with a cheap kit on Amazon, and as soon as I actually invested in some industry standard gear, I saw a massive difference in the quality of the tattoos I was producing. So I've put together my own box that you can buy because I found high quality starter kits are hard to come by.
I've got our table set up here. Final thing, gloves, very important. And some kind of light. Either this or a ring light. Now all we need is a stencil. So let's get that.
So this isn't the stencil I'm using today, but to show the difference between the two types of stencil printers that I've used, we go back to my first ever stencil print. The first one required me to print out onto A4 paper first, and then feed it through the printer with the thermal paper. And the one I use now, I can print directly onto the thermal paper from the iPad. Although the first one has been more reliable, the second is smaller and wireless, so very good for traveling, which I'm doing soon, and also requires less steps, paper, and other machines. Today we're going to be tattooing my sketchy apple design. I like to print a few sizes before finding the right place to put it. Oh, and be very careful with the scraps, this stuff goes everywhere.
And when you're buying transfer paper as well, be sure to get the good stuff. This stuff, it costs between 55, 65 quid. It's so worth it. You really do feel the difference between this one and a cheaper version. So yeah, link below. So we have our stencil. Let's prep the skin and start tattooing.
First, you want to sterilize the area. I'm using an alcohol pad, but you can use hand sanitizer. Get your gloves on and then shave all the hair around the chosen spot. Apply a small amount of stencil stuff to the area to the point where it's lightly covering the skin and making sure that it's like claggy and sticky. But if it's too wet, your stencil will smudge, and if it's too dry, it won't take. I like to use the back of my gloves to assess.
Now you want to stand as naturally as possible so that when you stick it down, it's going to be in the best place.
Well said, Nick. So yeah, make sure you stand as naturally as possible, otherwise your tattoo will be warped. Once you've stuck it down, you can stretch the skin however you like. Press and hold the stencil and make sure it's all pushed in, then slowly peel back the stencil and leave it to dry. Be careful not to smudge.
So with the stencil stuck down, that pretty much concludes this setup video. The only things left to do are wrap my needles and pour out the ink, and then we're pretty much ready to go. So if you wanted to jump into the actual tattoo, click this link and let's tattoo.